Hi, I'm Ted London, Senior Research Fellow and Director of the Base of the Pyramid Initiative at the William Davidson Institute at the University of Michigan. And today I'm with Sebastian Fries, who's the Director of Strategic Planning for Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and Canada for Pfizer. So Sebastian, thank you for talking.
Thanks for having me.
Before we talk in depth about this particular initiative, the Global Access Initiative, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about the current situation for Pfizer, what the company is facing?
The company is going through a period of change right now. The pharmaceutical business model is in the process of changing. It used to be based on commercializing blockbuster drugs, and we're talking about significant drugs, sort of in the $4 or $5 billion revenues per year category, and that for various reasons is sort of coming to an end now. As a consequence, the company and the industry is looking for new sources of growth. And one area that we're looking at is for instance, emerging markets. Those are markets that we have, I'd say, neglected in the past when the focus was more on the United States, on the European markets. And now emerging markets are really coming into the center of focus and opportunities for growth. So that really gives us an opportunity to also shift focus. With that, it also come challenges, for instance, in terms of how to do business in emerging markets, because it's not the same as in the mature markets.
And you've now launched something called Global Access, which in some respects looks at emerging market, but looks at it differently, rather than just sort of bringing your typical drugs to the wealthy in the emerging markets. You're looking further down the pyramid. Can you talk a little bit about Global Access?
Yeah, it's an exciting opportunity for us. The traditional Pfizer business model, even in emerging markets, has been to really just focus on I'd say the top 15% of the socioeconomic pyramid. And in those markets, what we've done is we've pretty much used the old commercial model. We've visited the high-income physicians. We've pretty much used the same portfolio that we've used in the mature markets. What we're starting to see now in markets like China, all the way from China to Brazil to India, even in those lower income markets, is that model doesn't really capture the opportunities that we have with the full portfolio. Pfizer has a huge portfolio of products that are off patent in mature markets, but are almost treated as major products, patents or not, in those emerging markets. And when you look at what's really needed at the base of the pyramid, it is those drugs that are available, but in various levels of quality. And therefore, we have an opportunity to really look at this as a growth opportunity. Base of the pyramid, significant pharmaceutical market that we've neglected so far. Just to give you a sense for the scale of it, we're sort of conservatively estimating that the base of the pyramid market for pharmaceuticals is around $30 billion. That is significant money for us, and that gives us an opportunity for us to explore what we do best, which is the commercial opportunities within a market. However, we're also realizing, and this is something that has become more apparent to us over the past 5 years, that we need to work on our reputation as an industry. We cannot work in emerging markets and pretend that 70, 80, 90% of the population we cannot ignore the fact that this population is underserved. And that has hurt the pharmaceutical industry for the past 5 years. It started with HIV/AIDS, and now it's becoming more of a mainstream issue. And so we have to look at it from a commercial perspective, but as well as from a partnership reputation perspective as well.
So you've begun this journey. Can you kind of take us through the process of getting started to where you are now? How has this journey evolved for Pfizer and for you?
It started with, I would say, with a couple of leaders with passion, and it started sort of with a strategic question of, where can we find more growth, and that we explored started about a year ago in earnest, when we were asked by our senior management team to explore opportunities. At that point, it was more focused, to be honest, on the philanthropic side. we have a significant, or we have a long tradition of significant philanthropic contributions to all kinds of medical related causes. About $2 billion per year go towards philanthropic efforts. However, there was one issue with that, and that was the efforts seemed a little disconnected in terms of the totality of the efforts. But they were also significantly disconnected from what we're trying to do in emerging markets. So senior management came to us and said, can you guys take a look at this? How can we be more productive and effective? What we then did a few months into that project was to really turn this around and say, well, let's just not focus on the philanthropic effort alone. Yes, we can do more and better things with this, but what if we add a commercial component? And that's what we started to explore then, and all of a sudden it turned from philanthropy to commercial. And partly, and this is something that I have to emphasize, is that was really driven by a couple of leaders in my company who intuitively, without knowing, latched onto this and said, we've got to do something. There's something here. It's a tough nut to crack, but let's go and figure this thing out.
But this really, when you turn this into a sort of a corporate strategy, this isn't business as usual for Pfizer. What have you done differently, or how have you kind of challenged conventional wisdom in the company?
That's an ongoing process. But I'd say one thing I'd like to point out, and you participated in it, is that we actually realized pretty quickly that we cannot solve this alone. We have to be surrounded by partners, and by non-traditional partners. I'm talking about partners from the NGO world, from other companies actually. So we opened ourselves up, and we organized this meeting in Virginia. It was sometime around this time of the year, about 6-7 months ago, when we invited 60 senior leaders from the company and 20 external participants. And we pretty much exposed ourselves and said, we don't know where this is going. Help us figure this out. So that was a major, major shift in the way we do things. And it has paid off, because ever since, this is the reason why I'm sitting here, because we started having a dialogue about this. I learned from you. You have a lot more experience than we do in that space. And so we're reaching out to other partners. And that's really a different approach that we've pursued.
So as you've gone through this journey, kind of what has maybe surprised you the most in this process? What have you really learned from doing this so far?
A couple things. First of all, doing business at the base of the pyramid is generally considered to be good for not only for the businesses that go in, but it's also becoming more accepted by the NGOs. Quite honestly, I was anticipating more pushback. I was anticipating criticism such as, you're going there just to push your high-priced drugs. You're taking advantage of uneducated customers, and so forth. We haven't heard much of this, which was, to be honest, a surprise, welcome surprise. The response within the corporation has been outstanding. We have received so much positive feedback from people, more or less saying, I've been waiting for this. This makes me proud to be at this company. I'm glad we're finally getting onto this path. So the colleague engagement, the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. We've learned a couple other things in the process. Partners told us that they've always wanted us to be in that game, but they had no idea how to actually interact with us. So we have to somehow, through dialogue, begin to let them know that we're there and that we're serious about this. Senior management's reaction was very positive. There are a lot of misconceptions about what it is that we can accomplish and how long it will take. But in general, I have to say I'm very positively surprised with the support that we've gotten from senior management. So there's just a couple things.
So as you look out in the future now, what do you see as some of the bigger challenges you might face, and have you begun to think about how you might overcome them?
That's a tough one. Scalability. within our model that we're currently thinking about, it can't be high-priced, low-volume, high margins. This, from a traditional pharmaceutical drug business, and this is still sort of the departure point we're going from, this is more of a generics play. So how do we get into this market space with high-quality drugs that are high volume and low margins, and is that acceptable to our shareholders? So that's one thing. I don't have an answer yet how to overcome this, but we have some thoughts on this. Scalability also in terms of rolling this out. Our country operations are critical in this space. They haven't really been exposed to this. My challenge is to actually get the countries incentivized to work with us on this. The incentives currently are not aligned, and we have to figure out how to fix that. We also have to figure out how to communicate with our markets. What's the best way? I can't go to. We have operations in 90 countries. How do I scale this thing? How do I get everybody involved in this? At least sort of a base of 15, 20 countries that I need to at least show that this is on the right track. And where am I going to be in 5 years with this thing? Is this something that's going to be spread over all emerging markets? Don't know, but those are a couple of challenges that we have to deal with, and next steps that we have to address. Also, from an investment point of view, this requires, at this point, people investment and potentially seed money for certain pilots and projects. So we need to continue to do this. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new when I say that we're under pressure, earnings pressure, and it's not an easy time to ask for money.
How do you maintain internal support for this over time? I mean, what are the metrics that they're expecting you to meet as you go forward?
To be honest, we haven't at all set in stone yet. So that is something that's on the agenda. Just to let you know, at this point, we're still recruiting the team. We have a team approved, but we don't have all the positions filled. So the gun has to go off, and that's when the team has to come together and say, what can we actually do? Because we're supposed to deliver within 12 months with no results. We can't deliver results in 12 months, but we have to get at least confident enough that this should move on. And this is metrics driven. So we have to go to senior management and say, these are the metrics that prove to you that this is worth pursuing for the next few years. What those metrics are, it'll be a combination of business metrics, more around milestones and specific revenue targets. I can guarantee you that much. It has to be there's something around partner engagement, and there has to be some metrics around, are we making a difference in access, and what could those metrics be? So not just on the commercial side, but also on the socially responsible side, which would be difficult to figure out. But that's one of our first key steps, figure out how do we measure what we can get done.
My last question would be that as you think about, say, we'll meet again in 5 or 6, we'll hopefully meet in between, but in 5 or 6 years, we'll sit down, we'll have another conversation like this, interview you, and I'll say, now that you're 5 or 6 years out, tell me what's happened. So in this case, you're kind of looking for, what would you see is happening in 5 or 6 years? What would you like to achieve?
I would like us to be considered the #1 player in markets that we currently are not participating in, and within those markets that we're participating in, that we're considered really the #1 partner when it comes to bringing healthcare, quality healthcare, to the base of the pyramid of all pharmaceutical companies.
Any particular revenue size or population served metrics? Are those to be determined still?
When I look at the base of the pyramid, and this is an assumption, my assumption is that there's probably always going to be in 5 or 6 years a layer of the base of the pyramid which will have to be served, when it comes to drugs at least, by donations. I don't think we'll be able to cover the full base of the pyramid. But for a significant portion, I want these people to be our customers, and I want us to find a way to serve them. And whether it's 2 billion out of 4 billion, whether it's 2.5 billion, I can't tell you, but it should be significantly more than what we have today, which is limited.
Sebastian, thank you very much for talking today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.